Welcome, everyone, to the Pockets of Knowledge podcast. I'm your host, Desiree Stanley, and with me tonight is my special guest, Joie Roberts. How are you tonight, Joie?
I am so good. Desiree, thank you so much for having me on your podcast.
I am thrilled that you are on my show today, and we can see, those of us who will be watching on YouTube can see the photo behind. It is your Fearless Sellers, the Women of Amazon. It's your podcast, and we'll get into that as we get going here. But I want to start with just a quick background. Like, you and I just met recently at a retreat, which was a lot of fun down in the Gulf Shores. Never been there before, so that was quite an experience for me. I really enjoyed it. And I got to meet you, and you are just such a firecracker. And I just was like, this gal is fun, super fun. And so I'm so thrilled you're on the show, and we get to learn a little bit more about you and your story. Tell us, because I know that you are the managing partner of a company called AMZ Insiders. So tell us about that, and how did that kind of come to be?
Thank you for the kind words. And you were super fun too. And it was a great way to meet, where we both got to relax and shine with our personalities. So AMZ Insiders is a coaching program to teach people how to sell or scale their business on Amazon. And the reason I got involved with that is because I actually did the AMZ Insiders program in 2021 when I was building my Amazon business. And I built my business. I sold it. The first question Jamie Davidson asked me the day after I had sold and exited my Amazon brand was, "Hey, what are you going to do now?" And it hit me that I really like coaching people, and I like helping, especially women, grow their businesses and reach their dreams and kind of have freedom from their 9-to-5 job or whatever their dreams are to sell on Amazon.
Oh, that's excellent. And we're going to hear more about your business and how you scaled it up, because it's talk about exponential growth in a very short period of time. And I can't wait to hear more about it. But let's dive a little bit into your history. Did you always know you wanted to be an entrepreneur? Did you know you wanted to be in business? Was that something that you thought, this is what I want to do with my life? Or did it kind of come about to be that way?
When I first started working many years ago, I was all about the corporate life. I did everything you're supposed to do. I went to college. I did the internship. I got a job. My first job out of college was at CNN in downtown San Francisco. And then I switched over and I worked for NBC News for like 6 years. And then I kept on the corporate track. I got a job at Callaway Golf, and then I was at Getty Images, and I was good at the corporate game. And I then hit a point where I just was at like, you know what? I don't want to make other people a lot of money anymore. I want to make myself money. And I don't know for sure that it meant, hey, I'm now an entrepreneur, but I knew that I was going to leave the corporate world. And I had the drive that I had the same drive in the corporate world that I have now. I was an awesome employee. I would hire myself.
Of course.
And I left the corporate world, stopped working at Getty Images. And the first business I ever started is a wallpaper company, artwork and design. It's called 3D Walls by Design. That was in 2014. I still own that business. I still run it. I love it. And I live in Austin, Texas, and I run that business out of Austin.
So was it design that you liked? How did you get into wallpaper of all things?
Good question. When I was working at Getty Images, everything is about beautiful images. And one of my responsibilities was to bring their images to walls in mostly framed artwork. And I also had a partnership with HP, and I got to do this very cool project with HP Hewlett Packard, where we printed on their wallpaper, and I got to design a hospital. It was part of Dell Children's Hospital in Austin. I was really lucky to even be put on this project. It took off. A TV show called Designing Spaces picked it up. I got to be on the TV show, and the designs we did, the team and I that I got to lead, really took off. And that hit me. I was like, hey, I can sell this wallpaper and artwork to commercial buildings to bring brands to life. Cause I love just being in TV and transitioning into marketing. Like I loved everything to do with branding, but making places beautiful.
Yeah, for sure. And so exciting. And I just recently discovered that you went to school up here in Northern California and were on, KNTV, which is like a local station for us. And it's just like, wow, I didn't know that. That's so cool. And so you were on television in Austin as well, it sounds like.
I had a job in Austin briefly at the news station here. And I took the job. I think I was doing maybe producing, but I didn't like working at the TV station on Austin. And I felt like I made such a big mistake. Like I left NBC in San Francisco and I did the ugly cry in the parking lot at my new job in Austin. I called the news director from NBC and I begged to come back. My job was filled. I made a big deal about my move, right? Like I helped find my replacement and I hated the job. So I ended up begging for anything NBC would give me. And they gave me a writing job at the Today Show. And yeah, it's super cool. I got to write for the Today Show, but I was doing it from Austin and I was kind of lonely. And I thought, okay, I can pack my bags and move back to San Francisco. But again, I made such a big deal about leaving San Francisco and moving to Austin, Texas, that I decided I had to get a job in Austin and I was going to stick it out. So that's how I got the job at Callaway Golf on their digital marketing team. And I worked in digital marketing. At the time, it was really launching all their social media campaigns.
Oh, that's cool. And I love that you said that you made such a big deal about moving. It was like you weren't going to just give that up. It's like, okay, I guess I better stick it out, right? I'm not going to just fail at this, even though there was probably some temptation there to like just head back. It sounds like it sort of worked out for the best that you're still there, right?
Right. Life is a journey and I just had to accept it and sit in my decision. I was like, I'm not running home. And I gave myself a timeline. It's like, okay, I'm going to do 1 year. I can do a year. And then that year turns into 2 and 3 and 4. And then you make your friends. I met my husband. I got married. I have a 5-year-old kid now. Like, we built a ranch. I never thought I'd have a ranch. This California girl has a ranch.
I love it. That's awesome. And you know what? There's that great expression, bloom where you're planted. And I think that's kind of what happened, right? It was maybe a little bit difficult in the beginning, but you set those roots in and you grew and you have totally, completely bloomed into this amazing businesswoman that you are now. And so I want to talk a little bit about how, kind of going back to the wallpaper, because I think, did you launch your Amazon business with that or was it a different product?
When I was building the wallpaper business, I had this realization that it was not very scalable. Like I wasn't building a business that I was going to be able to sell. It was really dependent on me. It still is dependent on me. Like I love doing it. I've been doing it, I guess 8 years now, but the first time I ever tried selling on Amazon was in 2017. And I'll make this story kind of brief because it could get long. My newborn baby was, I don't know, 2, 3, maybe 4 months old at the time. I had a girlfriend named Tiffany whose daughter was only a few months older than Ford. And her nanny wasn't paying attention and the stroller got away from the nanny, like rolled down a hill.
Oh,
and the baby's fine, nothing happened. But at the time, I thought, well, what if that nanny had a strap on her wrist connected to the stroller? And out of that emotion that I had, I thought, okay, I'm going to build this strap and I'm going to sell it on Amazon. And every single stroller, every single mom is going to have this. And I'm going to save every baby from rolling down a hill. Like,
I love it. Yes.
Right.
So what happened?
Here's the strap. So this was my first Amazon. You're the first person to ever see this, by the way, besides people who bought it. So This is my first strap, first product.
So like prototype.
No, that's it. That's what I sold on Amazon.
Okay. Got it.
Yeah. So I launched that on Amazon in 2017, maybe like early 2018. The problem with this product, one, as I just told you about the emotional part of it, right? I launched it on emotion. I did not launch it on facts. I didn't validate it. I didn't think about the margin. And anybody who listens to any of my Instagram knows I'm all about big margins. My wallpaper business is all about big margins. And this, well, the margin you could argue is like 60, 70%. You buy it from China for like $1, maybe $1.50. And in 2017, it sold for about $7. Huge margin, tiny amount of money, right? You're making like $4 or $5 a strap. I'd have to sell thousands of straps. And it was for me just a bad product. So just as quickly as I was like trying to save all these babies, I sold like a handful of them. And then I just handed them out to every single mom I saw.
There you go. You just made lemonade out of lemons, right? It was something that, you thought was going to be super successful that maybe didn't pan out quite the way you thought, but you gave it away and you did. You saved those babies, right? So we'll keep thinking of that.
Exactly. Yeah.
I love it. So did you then pivot to a different product? And then how did that go? Because I know, as I mentioned at the beginning of the show, there was exponential growth in your business. And we're talking 0 to $1 million in 1 year, right?
Right. Yes. I kept it in the back of my mind that product I sold had bad margins, and we all learn from our mistakes. And I knew I wanted to sell on Amazon. In 2020, when all the buildings shut down and I didn't have wallpaper to put up and my kid was at home, he was like 2 and I was potty training him, I started to think, okay, I can think about Amazon again, but I'm going to think bigger. Like I'm going to think very big this time and I'm going all in. Like this isn't going to be the stroller strap. It's going to be big. And I started the process in my mind with the margin in mind. And look, I'm not a big percentage person. I can use a calculator and do percentages. I turn everything into dollar amounts. So the way that I thought was I'm going to launch a product where I make a minimum of $100 per unit. Minimum. So that's kind of where I started. And then I looked for manufacturers and products. I found several manufacturers in Austin that I had conversations with. And I was like, well, what are you working on? What products do you have coming? What are your product ideas? And I ended up finding a manufacturer in Austin, and we went through about 8 different prototypes of products that we were going to launch. And I launched on Amazon in March of 2021 with a product that's in the outdoor sporting category.
Okay.
The only reason I'm not saying exactly what the product is, because I just showed you my stroller strap, is I'm under NDA since I sold it. They don't want me to say it because they think that I'm just going to do it again. They're kind of nervous. Anyway, back to the story. So I launched in March, and within, I would say my first 4 weeks, 5 weeks, I was close to $50,000 in sales. And then by my 3rd month, which was June, which was Father's Day, I had a really big lesson on the growth of a business growing very fast. Coming from a marketing background, I thought in my head in March when we launched, I was like, Father's Day is coming in June. I am going to knock it out of the park. Every single Father's Day search, my product is going to show up on Amazon. Well, 4 days before Father's Day, sales were going like crazy. And I think I was like at 160,000 in sales, or like few days before Father's Day. And I ran out of stock.
Oh,
yeah. That was a hard lesson. I cried in my car. I was so upset and so mad at myself. I felt like I had just completely crashed my business down. The beautiful thing about selling on Amazon is you can undo a lot of your mistakes. So I was able to get back up and running within 5 days and kept selling. So June was probably the top month. I think it ended somewhere around a little over $200,000 in sales. And then the trend continued by the end of the year, after Christmas, December going into January, sales were, a little over $1 million.
Wow.
And it's a lot to grow a business from 0 to $1 million in 12 months. Where I knew I obviously learned how to sell on Amazon that whole year, but I knew enough just to be dangerous. I didn't know 100% of everything I was doing.
As is often the case, right? And I've said it before, it's like you don't know what you don't know. So on the one hand, it's good because you can just jump into something and run with it. On the other hand, it could be bad because then you go like, I don't know all this stuff, and then you shut down, right? Because you're afraid of those things that you don't know. So in this case, you knew enough that you just ran with it and you're like, I'm going for it. And so it sounds like there was some growing pains there, where you learned that lesson about inventory and having items on hand, right? And so what would you say was, like, how did you solve that? Did you have quick access to the manufacturer? They could just ramp something up. What was the solution for that?
So in 2021, the supply chain was very difficult to get containers. So begging the supplier was not an option. Then they were like, well, it'd be a minimum of 60 days if you're lucky. And putting stuff on air freight, air express, like the airplane, was not an option either. So I had to call around to other manufacturers. I had to scrape it all together. I also had about 50 orders that I couldn't fulfill because I was running FBM and FBA, fulfilled by Amazon and fulfilled by merchant, meaning I shipped some of them. I was running both of those. So it's like the FBA runs out, then I could ship some from this like little warehouse that we had. And so I had to get really scrappy. And when it's your own business and there's people depending on you for paychecks, and I just had that drive, I really just hustled and I figured out how to fulfill the orders. One trick I learned, because on Amazon, you don't want your one shipping rating to get bad, like go defective, and you don't want bad reviews and returns. So I found a way where I could ship part of the product and then tell them the rest is coming. And I didn't feel good about it, but there's a balance between keeping your account healthy and pleasing the customer and doing the right thing.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's a great solution though. No, it's not ideal, but you are still fulfilling the order ultimately, right? So you're right. That was a scrappy solution to a sticky situation, if you will. So you said that it was January of 2022 then, that was about the time that you hit that $1 million goal, right?
I believe so. Yeah. Cause I ended up like fully being out of the business in March. So I launched in March and then I was done in March. So yeah, it was around in January. Yeah, I think all said and done, it might've been around like 1.2 million. I had a website too. So I sell like most everything on Amazon. And then I think probably like 250 came in through the website.
That's fantastic. Tell us a little bit about the process, or was it challenging to sell your business, or did they just see, oh my gosh, there's so much potential here, and they're like, just give it to us?
Right. It's difficult. People look at your business, they'll dig into the financials and ask you a million questions. You get really vulnerable. It's kind of like this, baby you've spent not a real baby, but like this baby you spent all this time on. And there's so much like emotion and sweat and tears that I put into it. And people are just digging into it, and they will pretend they're going to give you an offer, and then they just disappear. And I was partially getting attached to some of the people who were coming in and touring the warehouse that we had. And I was like, oh, this person would be great. And then they talked to me about, hey, we'd like for you to stay on and run the Amazon business. So yeah, it was a harder process than I thought. It was my first time ever selling a business. Actually, it's the only business I've ever sold. It's not like I do it all the time, but
Yet.
Yes. I have goals to sell more businesses now that I've done it once.
That's awesome. And I could see how, you got excited about the potential. And it's a little bit like when you're shopping for a home. just, I know completely kind of different topics, but you know how you get excited, like when you're looking at homes and you think like, oh my gosh, I could see our family living here. And especially with everything that just went down these last couple of years with the housing market and how many people were getting beat out in offers. It's just like, oh my gosh, how disappointing, right? When another one doesn't come through and another one doesn't come through. So I could see how that would start to feel a little bit like, gosh, is this going to happen? And I think that it seems to me like it could feel very personal to the, like you mentioned, them digging into your financials and like, oh my gosh, are they going to say like, I didn't run my business right? What's the deal here? And how did that feel?
It's a good way to put it, that it is like house hunting, because you do get your hopes up, like on both sides. Oh, we're the buyer's going to take this or the seller's going to take it. It felt a little bit like people to your face are very excited about the business and they feel your energy and they walk away, and a lot of it changes. And it's almost like being rejected from, like, you thought, oh, didn't our date go super well? And I was really honest and I was open and I told you everything we can improve on and how we're going to grow. And it's like, okay. And then all of a sudden they disappear. Or you can tell they really want it, but then they're giving you offers that are not saying they really want it. And then it makes me as first time seller, like, kind of guess. And I didn't have a broker or anybody doing it for me. I had brokers and people offer. But one of the reasons I didn't is we were getting so much interest that I didn't want to lose all the interest we had, because I needed to stop and bring somebody up to speed. And look, the business was making 1.2 million in 12 months, which is impressive, but it wasn't like, over $10 million. So it wasn't very complicated. It wasn't really intricate.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. Well, to switch gears a little bit, let's talk about the AMZ Insiders, because I think that you had some help from that group. Is that right? But when, getting your product launched and running that, and now you're a little bit more, as I said at the beginning of the show, the managing partner. So tell us about that and how you came to be in that position.
Sure. So when I first decided in 2020 that I was going to launch on Amazon, I did not want to make mistakes and I didn't want to take years to get the business going. With my wallpaper business, it took me 3 years before I was profitable. I kept making mistakes. I kept losing money. I'm never doing that again with another business. I'm going to people who know what they're doing and have been successful, and I'm learning what they did. That's why I was like, okay, who is the top seller on Amazon? I Googled top 100 Amazon sellers. Jamie Davidson's name popped up and I thought, okay, great. I want to learn from him. I looked at his program. I looked at a couple other coaching opportunities, but Jamie's was really the only one that was actual mentorship and coaching. So I was like, great, I'm diving in. So I signed up for the program. It was definitely one of the reasons my business did so well, because I had him and his team of coaches to really hold my hand through all of it. And I could ask what you think is a silly question, but you're asking it privately to a team of coaches. You're not posting it on a Facebook page, or it's not like a mastermind where there's like 200 people in a Telegram group. Like, it was private and I could say whatever I wanted. And it also felt good when I made mistakes, like ran out of stock, to just say, hey, I ran out of stock. I mean, I was sitting in this office actually, and I have nobody to talk to. So it's like, okay, good. I have the AMZ Insiders team to talk to. So that was really my big connection. And it held a very special place in my heart. It still does, just in a different capacity. So after I sold my business, and I had told Jamie the ins and outs of everything while I was selling it, because he had become my mentor. So I trusted him too, which was important for growing your business. You have to find somebody you trust to be your mentor.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And then Jamie was like, well, what are you going to do now? And it's like, well, okay. I mean, if you're interested in me coaching or helping, I was like, I mean, I guess I could coach. Maybe I'll just try it. And so I just jumped in and started coaching. And I loved it. And it was so fun. And I eased into it. And I think it's my personality. It's like, I can't just say, hey, I'm going to coach for you and build my new Amazon business because I did launch a new store. I have to come in and reorganize and make it mine and own things. So Jamie and I made a partnership together where we're, equal partners. So we're both managing partners of AMZ Insiders, and I got to revamp the training program. And since I had just gone through it, I can't just give them my ideas. I have to be like, no, I'm actually going to implement all of them. Yeah. So that's been really fun. And then, yeah, I launched a new Amazon business in like mid 2022, and I sell women's health products like around infertility stuff.
Okay. And so that actually, I think is a good transition point to talk about the book that you wrote and is published, and it talks about that. And so I'd love for you to share with the listeners what the name of the book is and what inspired you to write it.
Yeah. So my book is called Nothing in the Oven, and it's about trying to get pregnant and my journey about infertility and how I thought I should just be able to get pregnant, and then I couldn't get pregnant. Actually, I have the book right here. So here is the book. And yeah, it matches for those who are watching on YouTube. You can see it matches my Fearless Sellers logo. And if you're listening, yeah, it's called Nothing in the Oven, and it's on Amazon. I got married in 2014 and immediately was like, okay, you get married and then you stop taking your birth control and you have a baby. That's how it works, right? Seems to work for all my friends. And I wasn't getting pregnant. And it's like, everyone's saying, oh, well, just relax. It'll happen. It wasn't happening. And then I am very impatient. And I thought, I need to get this job done. So told my OB, I think we were trying, I don't know, like 6 months, wasn't happening. And I think I was like 35 at the time, right? So it's kind of like, I should be able to get pregnant. I'm young, I was 35. So go to my OB. They were like, let's do IUIs. So I do 6 IUIs, which is those like intravenous type, I can't remember the exact name, but it's called an IUI. Okay. And I did 6 of them. And then he said, well, you probably have endometriosis. Let's give you a surgery. And I was like, all right, great. So I had the endometriosis surgery, and I had stage 3, almost stage 4 endometriosis. They do this laparoscopic procedure, and I swear my memory is that my doctor said it was almost guaranteed I'd get pregnant. This is probably just my memory, or my mother tells me this too. I was like, okay, great. I'm going to get like a big return on my surgical investment right now. And like a whole year went by, and I was doing more of the IUIs, and I wasn't getting pregnant. So then I switched to IVF. I did 3 full rounds of IVF. I had the first round, I had 3 embryos, barely any of them made it. But I think just to be nice, because it was my first round, they transferred all 3 and they put all 3 into my uterus. Nothing happened. Although I thought I'd be pregnant. I was like, I'm having triplets. Everybody get ready. Didn't happen. And then my next round, where I had to get eggs again, I transferred 3 embryos again, and I got pregnant, but that one didn't stick. And when I was pregnant, even though that one ended in a miscarriage, I couldn't believe I'd actually conceived. I was so proud of myself. I was like, I did this. So yeah, it didn't work out on the second round, but it really motivated me to keep going. I called the doctor immediately. It was like, I need to do another round right now. Like, let's pull more eggs. Like, let's do this. I'm ready. So Ford, who's my 5-year-old son, he was my 9th embryo, right?
Wow.
So I did 3 more, and the only one that had the good grade and was performing well, even though they transferred 3, I know was the one of Ford. So yeah, so I wrote the book, one, to just share what I shared with you, right? Just the medical journey, but then the whole experience of being a woman and not being able to get pregnant when you're basically I mean, I thought you just get married and have a baby, and all my friends were getting pregnant. I mean, I threw probably 6 baby showers over those 3.5 years where I was trying to have a baby. And the miscarriage I had on the second round, I had to throw a baby shower at my house the day after that. I
Oh,
found out it wasn't going to take. And the whole book is really designed for anybody going through infertility or that knows somebody going through infertility that can see the emotional side of me, some of the ways I responded. And hopefully, if you're going through it, you can either do it better than I did, right? You can handle it mentally better than me. Or if you know somebody going through it, gives you a little bit of perspective of how you might be able to support them.
right. Well, thank you for sharing that with us. That's so powerful. I mean, I think you're absolutely right. We just assume that it's just going to happen like that, and it does for some people, and it doesn't for other people, and there's no real explanation why. Although in your case, you did.
In theory, yes. It all falls under unexplained infertility. And then, yes, I have endometriosis, which does usually stop you from getting pregnant. But it's just interesting to me, like that our medicine is not as advanced to really be able to diagnose infertility better. Look, IVF has only been around since I don't know, the late 70s. So I'm very blessed that IVF is, more and more mainstream, but I think it's only 5% of women pursue IVF, and it's growing. And I mean, my message would be, hey, if you're out there and you can't get pregnant and you want to have a child, pursue all your options until you feel like you don't want to pursue it anymore, because missing out on motherhood and is not worth it because you're like, oh, that's expensive, or I don't feel like I want to do the shots. It's like, you have to do it. Right. I'm 43. So it's like, I needed to do that for my 43-year-old self, because I don't want to be trying to have a baby now. I was in my 30s then.
Right. Yeah, no, that's great. And sharing your story, can give hope to people. As you said, it could provide just information that you could support somebody who's in your life that maybe is going through that, and just gives them a little insight into what they might be feeling and thinking. So that's fantastic that you wanted to share that with others and help others. And I think that's kind of a trend, right? Is that you are about helping others with your AMZ Insiders, helping Amazon sellers with the coaching. Now you've got your podcast, which is the Women of Amazon Fearless Sellers. I love it. And you'll have to tell us about the name. Where did you come up with Fearless Sellers and why?
Great question. So on my first product that we talked about earlier, if you're watching on YouTube, it's Fear Free Mama. If you're listening, I put Fear Free Mama as my brand on the stroller strap. The word fear is kind of like a constant in my life. Like, my mom made decisions that were fear-based. And I noticed it when I was growing up, like through high school and college, and just even through dating. My mother would give me advice based on fear, and she did things in her life based on fear. Look, my mother is amazing and wonderful, and she's very supportive. And I think the fear was that she didn't want me to get hurt. She didn't want me to suffer. And it's always been this constant. So when I think of branding and anything that has to do with empowerment, I think of that. It is living without fear. Like, one of my favorite Bible verses is, she laughs without fear of the future. Right. And it's just one of those, you trust your future, you trust yourself. And so to bring it into the Amazon selling space with my podcast is really about celebrating fearless sellers, because you have to drop your anxiety and overcome fear to step out and start your own business.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that you had told me that sort of was a theme in your life, right? Is this idea of overcoming fear, or getting around fear, or not letting fear stop you. And I want to say that I think that maybe it's a generational thing, or, maybe it's just being a mother. You obviously don't want anything to happen to your children. And so you're trying to forewarn, don't do this maybe because it's going to hurt or whatever. And, because I think my mom was kind of the same way, and I try not to be that way with our girls. It's, you want to do something fantastic. You go, you do that, because I don't want to be the mom that says, oh, you shouldn't do that because, this is going to happen, or some other negative thing is going to happen. And so I think that it's awesome that you are sharing the stories of these amazing Amazon sellers and their growth, their journey, right? And how they've overcome challenges and things to run successful businesses. I think it's awesome.
Thank you. And it inspires me when I interview these Amazon sellers to hear their journeys. And, we all come from different backgrounds. And when you dig into it, we all have that in common of being fearless and just jumping into it and giving 100% of ourselves to make it happen. Like, I'm not saying quit your 9 to 5 and start selling on Amazon, but you do have to learn a new skill, and you have to start your own business and fund it, right? Like, if you're taking out credit cards or a loan or borrowing the money, or hope maybe you have the money, there's risk involved, which cuts people deeply. And especially as women, right? And women with families. Like, when I needed my inventory and I wanted $25,000, it made me think, okay, I'm going to have to scrape up $25,000 and take it from my family during COVID when I don't have a lot of wallpaper jobs coming in. But the fearless part of me was like, doesn't matter. I'm going to make it happen. I made a decision. I'm doing it.
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome. I love it. Well, thank you for sharing these stories with us. It means so much to me that you are willing to come on and share some very personal things that have happened in your life with others. And it means the world to me, because that's really what my show is about. And that's, educating, inspiring, empowering others to step out, like you said, and move past anxiety and move past fear and go for those things that you want to go for. So thank you for sharing it. But before we close out the show, I always like to ask if there's any books that you've read or books that you're reading now that have been influential or beneficial for you that you think that the listeners would enjoy picking up.
That's a good question. If you're just starting out, I don't know how young your listeners are, but I read a book when I was just starting out at NBC News called Nice Girls Don't Get the Corner Office. And it was a hard book for me to read because I'm very social. So if you're just starting out in your career, Nice Girls Don't Get the Corner Office is good. There's a book that I'm reading now. I might have to look it up, but it's about tough conversations. And I think books on having difficult conversations, especially as women, are important because everybody, but especially women, we need to learn that in order to get what you want and go where you want in life, you're going to have tough conversations. It's called Fierce Conversations is the book that I'm currently diving into. And other than that, I just love listening to podcasts. I like your podcasts. I like just all sorts of podcasts. So books and podcasts, I would challenge everybody to read one book a month and stay on top of at least 3, if not 4 podcasts a month.
Yeah, I love it. And we can all get so much from hearing the stories that others are sharing. So some of the podcasts that I really enjoy listening to, of course, is yours. The stories so far that I've heard have been fantastic with some of the different sellers that have come on. You share your story on your podcast as well. Your 0 to $1 million in a year with selling your business. And I loved hearing that in detail. So I'm going to encourage the listeners to go check out your podcast, Fearless Sellers, the Women of Amazon, because it's awesome. And I wish you so much success in that, as well as the AMZ Insiders. It's already helping so many people. And I love that. So continue on with your mission. I love it. Thank you again, Joie, for coming on the show.
Thank you so much. It was a pleasure.
I'll talk to you soon.